They all thought I was finished. Done for. At every lunch, every charity gala, the whispers followed me. My supposed downfall was the talk of the town. I'd catch their eyes, the wives of his business partners, their faces a mixture of pity and, if I'm being honest, a little bit of glee. But I never let it get to me. I just offer a small, quiet smile. Our relationship, at least in the beginning, was a partnership. He was the visionary, the grand strategist. I was the one who managed the intricate details behind the scenes, the one who made sure the empire actually ran. Our money was always our money, a shared kingdom built on his ambition and my sharp financial sense, which he often condescendingly called women's intuition. He became dismissive whenever I asked about specific investments. Our joint accounts, which I once had full transparency over, started feeling opaque, veiled. He'd come home late, the scent of expensive perfume that wasn't mine clinging to his suit, and then launch into speeches about protecting our assets. But his tone had shifted. It felt less like us and more like him. Soon, it wasn't our money anymore. It was his money, his empire. I was becoming little more than a decorative accessory in the life he was building for himself. The real breaking point wasn't a screaming match or a dramatic confrontation. It was a single chilling sentence. We were in his study, discussing our prenuptial agreement, which, I'll admit, was ironclad and entirely in his favor. He leaned back in his leather chair, a smug smirk playing on his lips, and said, "You know, Sarah, without me you'd be lucky to keep the gardener." And that was it. I didn't feel anger. I felt a cold, crystal-clear clarity wash over me. He genuinely believed he held all the power, all the cards. He thought I had nothing, that I asterisk was asterisk nothing without him. He was about to find out just how wrong he was. While he was busy parading his new mistress around town and planning his next corporate conquest, I was working quietly, methodically. Years before, back when our marriage was still a true partnership, I had done something he never knew about. Using my own inheritance and the profits from some very early, very shrewd investments I'd made long before I even met him, I established an offshore holding company. It was a complex web of trusts and international investments, completely separate from our shared finances. He knew about my inheritance, of course, but he'd always laughed it off as play money. He thought it was a quaint little hobby fund, not worth his time or attention. He never bothered to look closer, never asked for details. And I certainly never volunteered them. So, as he moved forward with the divorce, he was operating on incomplete information. He was playing checkers and I was playing a very long, very patient game of chess. Every asset he thought he was stripping from me, every part of my downfall the society wives gossiped about, was just a distraction. It was all a carefully constructed smokescreen. He could have the house. He could have the cars. He could have all the public-facing investments we shared. I let him think he was winning, that he was leaving me with scraps. Because the real wealth, the truly significant, life-altering money, wasn't tied to his name or our marriage in any way. It was sitting in my offshore accounts, growing exponentially, completely outside his reach and completely outside the jurisdiction of our divorce courts. The day the divorce was finalized, he threw a massive party. I heard he toasted to his freedom and his victory. The gossip circles were buzzing with stories of how I'd been ruined, left with next to nothing. I let them talk. I stayed quiet. Then, a few weeks later, the news broke. A major acquisition he had been banking his entire future on, a deal that was meant to cement his legacy, didn't just fall through, it imploded spectacularly. The collapse revealed a series of deep financial vulnerabilities he had masterfully hidden for years. His net worth, once a legendary figure, was suddenly drastically reduced. And that's when my plan came to fruition. The market shift created by his company's spectacular failure created a unique opportunity. And my little offshore holding company, the one he never knew existed, was perfectly positioned to capitalize on it. I didn't orchestrate his downfall, but I was ready for it. I watched the financial news reports. I read the headlines detailing his staggering losses. I listened as the wives' whispers turned from my misfortune to his. Their pity and glee were now directed at the man they once revered. I never called him. I never sent a gloating message. There was no need. My victory wasn't loud. It was quiet and absolute. I just sat at the desk of my new, much more private office and smiled. A real, genuine smile this time. As I signed the papers on my new life, a life built on my own terms, secure and entirely my own, I thought about all their chatter. Let them talk. I'm far too busy living. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.